Julia and her husband Daniel met when they were just 17 years old. Few years later they got married and had 2 beautiful children together. Like any couple, they had hard times but stuck together and supported each other, and managed to create a good stable family life. But all that was about to change on what seemed like an ordinary day, by a simple add friend on Facebook. A cruel force was about to enter their life. A man named Thomas Miller, a former school friend of Julia's, who she once dated, sent her a friend request on Facebook. Since Julia knew Thomas from the school days, she accepted it. The two began to message and talk a bit on Facebook about the good old days and such. Soon though, the conversation started taking a different turn. Thomas invited Julia to meet in person and have a drink together. Julia declined such an invitation and didn't like where this was going, so she unfriended him and decided to stop all messages with Thomas. After she did this, things took a dark turn. The tone of Thomas' messages turned aggressive. He started threatening Julia and made her know he had detailed knowledge of her personal life and that he watched her constantly. Massive amount of messages began. Whenever she blocked him, he was still able to contact her in other ways. And every time she deactivated her Facebook account, it was somehow always reactivated and Thomas was able to message her once again. She shut down all her social media accounts for good, but soon began to receive emails from Thomas, threatening her with violence and threatening to harm her family and children. He began emailing members of Julia's family, including her mother, who was ill in the hospital at the time. He also contacted Daniel, threatening him, and Julia's work colleagues, spreading horrific rumors about their relationship. Julia became more and more withdrawn out of fear. Daniel was her only support. He tried to comfort her and give her strength. A message she received while shopping and holding a new purse said, "Nice purse, want to meet for a coffee?" Another time he told her he could see her jogging. Julia did not leave the house anymore and was close to suicide. She was insanely afraid. Her passport also disappeared at one point. Her husband Daniel protected her and their daughters as much as he could, comforting his wife as the abuse worsened. He was her rock throughout. After more than a year passed, Julia had enough and decided to take matters in her own hands and to report all this to the police. Daniel rejected, saying no real harm has been done, just emails. What would the police do about it? But Thomas Miller was not stopping the abuse. Eventually, against the advice of her own husband, Julia went to the police anyway. They immediately took her concerns very seriously and started an investigation. The police caught a video of the stalker on camera as he sent an image of the entrance of an airport to Julia. Officers were also able to track the car arriving at the terminal and spotted him on CCTV taking the picture in question. They also identified the IP address of where some of the threatening emails were sent from. All of the police footage showed the stalker in action, but there was only one problem. It didn't show any Thomas Miller, but it showed Julia's own husband, Daniel Graham. Julia couldn't believe it. She was sure that the police got it wrong. It couldn't be Daniel, her husband, all along. But the evidence was undeniable. The IP address of the threatening messages were traced back to Julia's own home, and CCTV footage showed Daniel taking an image of Julia at the airport that he later sent to her as Thomas. Julia's husband, Daniel, had been tormenting her this way all this time. He regularly saw her break down and then comforted her. And of course, he knew everything about her and could drive her crazy. He humiliated and controlled her in a sadistic way. Turns out Daniel had lost his job and was $142,000 in debt, and a repossession order of their home was coming. While Julia was getting ahead in her own profession, making him jealous, resentful, and distrusting of his own wife of 25 years. Daniel was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Julia says she can never trust anyone again.
I always said to people, it's like this stalker knows my inner thoughts and my inner feelings. But actually he was sat right beside me. Of course he knew.